And the thought of people in their final months and days being far, far away from their homes and their family and their loved ones, I find absolutely horrifying. And that is really simply that drives me about the Dunbar and the town and county. And yes, I did visit the town and county just a few weeks ago, and I was most impressed by what I saw there, and it seems to me astonishing that there already are beds in there that are not being used, and I just can't understand. That seems dotty in this day and age. And what I did, as you will recall, some of you who saw it in the paper, was I have taken a slightly drastic step of writing directly to the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, saying that if NHS Highland moves to shut either of these two hospitals, then I honestly believe it is time for the Scottish Government to step in and take over direct control of what is happening in the far north. But if we further downgrade services, be they maternity or elderly, whatever, then you will discourage new employers moving into the far north to use the skills that we have already at Dunray, and that is straightforward bonkers. And if new employers don't move in, and if you downgrade the health service, well, let's not muck about. Your people will vote with their feet, they'll start to move away, and that was the curse of what happened before Dunray.
The NHS keeps telling me, and NHS Highlands, that they're listening to you. But the trouble is, they listen to you, they go away and come up with a different plan. And if you think that I'm making that up, that's why they're having a rally in Portree today at the same time as you are, because they're facing the same problems that you are. There's a lack of staff and people coming up to work in the area. And the problem is you keep pulling away a brick, it's rather like Jenga, the whole thing collapses. We need to make sure that we get people to work up here, and we need to get them up here early, so they settle up here and they have families up here and they become committed to the area. I think there's also a lack of facilities. I mean, looking around the hospital, you know, you can see bits of it are falling away. Well, let's invest in new facilities. That's what our parents did and our grandparents did, is they took care from the middle and moved it out to the remote areas. It would be such a retrograde step to move it back into Raigmore and into a central location, which costs a huge amount of money. And also the problem is that once you do that, you weaken the communities that we as politicians have a duty to strengthen. Because if we can strengthen those communities, we can make sure that jobs and everything that flow from having a strong community remain.
It's important we try and get the people making those decisions to come, to make the journey themselves, to see how they would feel. Actually, making the journey is one thing. Making that journey in the back of an ambulance is something totally different. And making that journey when you're fearing for the life of a loved one some distance away is actually dangerous. Now, rightly, we've been asked what would we do differently, and I think that is really important. The Scottish Labour Party have been very clear that we would raise taxes to save our services. We offered that as an alternative last year to stop the cuts. And yes, it was complicated because the tax powers we had then were not great, and there was a great workaround to try and save the less well off. But we need to invest in our services, and now we have the opportunity to devise new tax levels and bands that provide the services we want. And I think if we're wanting the services, we need to make a stand and demand we get the services and we pay for them as well. So I would ask you to join me and say, this is what we need. We value our services, we're willing to pay for them, and we're going to make a stand together today.
And I can see from the turnout today, and reading all your emails, and thank you for sending those in, and reading all the messages on social media, that you don't feel that NHS Highland are being open and honest with you. And we have to change that. Now, we all meet with NHS Highland regularly, and the one thing that we always say to them is, you need to tell the people what you are doing. If there is a proposed change, and Reverend Nugent touched on the consultation of the bed numbers, and other people have spoken about it as well. That consultation is not yet open to the public. And yes, chat should be at those meetings. Yes, members of the public should be feeding into the options, because right now, the options are very narrow, they're far too narrow. We want to see the hospitals kept open. We don't want to see cuts in bed numbers. Everybody wants that. I am on your side on this. I think that the message today to the Health Board of NHS Highland is absolutely crystal clear, and the chair of the board needs to take cognizance of the amount of people that are out today. unless they develop clearer lines of communication, unless they give us better options, and unless they start listening to the community, I don't think his position is tenable anymore, and he needs to step aside.